What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering. An interesting update on the whistleblower from Hasbro. If you have been following the news, there was a pretty shocking revelation that Hasbro had in fact been integrating some very, how do I say, controversial training for their employees, critical race theory or adjacent, I suppose. So then the whistleblower who released that has now been fired. Hasbro suspends critical race theory training whistleblower, claims recent leak mischaracterizes our values. Now, to be fair, whistleblowers can expect to be fired, certainly. But I hope that I hope that somebody starts like a GoFundMe for them or something to get them through this time, because I think it's important that you call this stuff out. Following the publication of its critical race theory training program, Hasbro has suspended whistleblower David Johnson in order to investigate a potential violation of his confidentiality clause and respond to the backlash by the leak by asserting that the recently revealed information, quote, mischaracterizes our values. As reported by PV, an investigative journalism outlet, the toy manufacturer's The Conscious Kid-led training was leaked. Just one day after publishing the report on his information, Hasbro suspended Johnson's contract in order to, quote, some sort of issue of breach of confidentiality. Again, you can't expect to not get fired if you leak this stuff out. But that's what makes it kind of a heroic move, I think. As told to the engineer by Harvey Nash, President Jason Pyle, whose company partnership with Hasbro resulted in Johnson's assignment to the company. At this moment, your assignment with Hasbro, your access to all company-related information has been suspended for the moment while they do an investigation. Well, of course, he's not going to be renewed. I want to understand that while you are aware, you, David Johnson, have a contract with Harvey Nash that has a confidentiality clause, and whether or not you've properly reviewed that, you are to not share any kind of internal information externally in any way, shape, or form if it's deemed to be proprietary in nature. The same day, Hasbro provided a statement to The Hill's Christian Spencer claiming that, quote, the PV report mischaracterized Hasbro and our values, noting that our mission is to create the world's best play and entertainment experiences that connect children, fans, and families around the world. Hasbro then pulled a page out of the Coca-Cola's playbook and stated, we occasionally invite third-party speakers for optional sessions to discuss diverse viewpoints. Quote, the referenced session was not mandatory training. It was an optional webinar attended by a small group of employees. The company continued, as always, the views expressed by external speakers are their own and do not reflect the values of our company. Well, yeah, but you paid for it. Oh, here, he does have a GoFundMe. I'll leave a link to that. Dang, 172 grand. Nice work. That should at least buy him a year or two. You could see I've decided to speak out against CRT being pushed to Hasbro. In the simplest definition, it's the academic justification for why discrimination based on race is actually a good idea. If the youngest generation of Americans are taught that racial segregation is the correct path, then as a country we will find ourselves in a future where white children are told no matter what they do, they're oppressors of minorities, while the minority children are told they can't succeed in society because they are perpetually and forever oppressed. By the way, the whistleblower is not a white dude. It's good. I don't know why it is that way, but it's just, I guess optically, it's good when you can have people stand against this who are of minority status, because it shouldn't matter what color your skin is, but it just, I don't know, it just hits different. It's just the reality of it. CRT directly opposes the dream of the late Dr. Martin Luther King, who dreamt of a world where we would judge each other by our actions and not our character. Our actions and character, not by the pigment of our skin. Critical race theory preaches that we should treat each other as members of a racial group in order to be anti-racist. What they won't admit is to be an anti-racist, you must racially discriminate. I refuse to sit back as this harmful ideology is being pushed on kids, knowing that whistleblowers generally lose their jobs and sometimes have their identities attacked or defamed. I had to bring attention to this. I don't want a future divided by race and hatred. If you're able, I would greatly appreciate your support. Now, this is his campaign. It's on Give, Send, Go. He created his own. Yeah, I mean, you could see it is this type of training. It's just like I talk about in the schools, to be honest with you. A lot of this stuff insidiously worked its way into things like the school district, but we never found out about it until the lockdowns happened, until the shutdowns happened, when all the kids were then at home with their parents and learning via Zoom. That's how all of this got brought to the surface. Nobody had any idea on any large scale that this kind of stuff was being taught in schools until Zoom happened and parents saw it. Now you could see on Yahoo News, an engineer working for Hasbro contractor has reportedly pulled from a job. Yeah, I mean, I think you talk about crazy concepts like babies. Whistleblower claims Hasbro CRT training teaches that babies can be racist, and 5-year-old kids are showing strong and consistent pro-white, anti-black bias. Dave Johnson, of course, is an engineering contractor, recorded this particular training. The Hasbro training was hosted by the firm The Conscious Kid. And there are hundreds of companies like this out there, run by people with gender studies degrees, whose entire business model is built on dividing people along racial lines and sowing discontent. Their entire business is to undo all of the positive things that have happened in terms of race relations over the last 50 years. Are they great? Of course not. Are they better than they were 50 years ago? Undeniably. So the idea that, demonizing one group of people and then pushing this on kids is appalling. The Conscious Kid co-founder, Kate, Ishizuka Steffens, said that children's racial bias escalates by age. Babies as young as 3 months old already express preference by race. The famed toy maker's offerings include Monopoly, Battleship Operation, as well as My Little Pony, G.I. Joe, Mr. Potato Head, obviously Transformers. They also own Magic the Gathering. It's insane to me that a toy company, and what's funny is, when this happened to Coca-Cola, by the way, they couldn't back away from it fast enough. They backtracked so quickly, there was there was smoke on the ground. Doesn't that tell you something in and of itself? If you felt so strongly about this, and if you felt like you were doing nothing wrong, why are you so quick to denounce it and say, well, this doesn't represent our company morals and values? Well, what the H was it doing there in the first place? I think you do think it mirrors what the values you want your company to have. And the only reason you came out and said anything was because you got caught. Now, if we look at the Hasbro stock, it's difficult to point this out. You can see on the day when this broke, I think this was late last week, you can see a pretty sharp decline. I don't remember exactly what day it broke. Let's see here. I can tell you, actually. The video dropped, I think, on a Sunday night. On the 18th. So, the drop, you can't really say had anything to do with it. The 16th came out on Sunday. The 18th, it actually came up Monday, Tuesday, and dropped Monday. So it didn't really have a huge effect on the stock. But again, Hasbro stock underperforms Thursday when compared to competitors. I don't know. Could this be some one rogue HR intern that wanted to bring this stuff in? Possibly. But I applaud people that continue to expose this kind of stuff, because look, there are a lot of choices in places that I spend my money and other people spend their money. There's a lot of choices in how, what the toys you buy your kids, and the companies. Like, is there any real difference if you get your kid this, an action figure that looks like a lion, or an action figure that looks like a pterodactyl? I don't know, but maybe one company makes it who doesn't have CRT training for their employees, and it doesn't matter. There's a wide variety. There's a lot of things parents can do to push back, and consumers can do. And that's exactly why Coca-Cola backtracked so fast, and that's exactly why Hasbro did. You can see David Johnson was very articulate and smart about the way he handled the release of the information. The CRT training from Hasbro, that's not actually our company policy, but we will be suspending you for disclosing our confidential information, which we reiterate is not actually what we think. I mean, of course it is. I can't wait for more and more companies to have this brought out, and we can root this out. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.